Hello, my name is Henrik. Glad you can join us live again. Or not again. If this is your first time, glad you can join us. If this is your nth time, glad you can join us. So today we're going to be talking about which programming language to learn first. So this is a really hot topic right now, or not right now, but all the time. It's always a hot topic for those who are trying to get into programming. So I want to shed some light on this question. So this is the fourth video out of a 10-day series. I'm teaching programming every day from January 9th to January 20, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on this channel. So hope you can join for the rest of our videos. And if you're starting to learn how to program, I've got a programming guide called my Personalized Finance App Programming Guide. It's a guide that takes you step by step how to program your own app from zero experience. Your own application, your first app from zero programming experience. And it basically what it does, it takes your credit card transactions. It's like a file that you get from your credit card company. It takes your credit card transactions and then it teaches you how to organize them so that you can know how much you're spending on different budget categories. And I think it's a good first app because it's a very fun tool that you can actually use to personalize your finances. And it's actually something I wanted to build for myself, so I also coded this. And I think it's a good project. So you can find the project in the link in the description. It should be there. You can download it. It's free. And if you pay attention to do what it says, you will definitely learn some fundamental programming concepts. And also before we end today, I plan to open up this live for Q&A. So if you have any questions at the end of my talk, I'm just going to teach for a few minutes and then I can open it up for Q&A. All right, so let's begin. So which programming language should you learn first? Should I learn first or you learn first? Because I already know how to program. So which programming language should you learn first? So I think I always see this question all the time in Reddit and online. People are always asking this question. People debate about this question. But I think the right answer, and I think most programmers will agree with me, is that's the wrong question. The right question is first you have to ask yourself, what do you want to build? Are you trying to build a website? Then you should learn JavaScript. Are you trying to build get into machine learning and AI? Then you should learn Python. If you're trying to do embedded systems or you're trying to work with Arduinos or microcontrollers or some sort of embedded system, some chip, then use code in C. Or if you're trying to learn how to build an Android app, or do you want to make a GUI of some sort that you can use on Linux or some kind of GUI, then Java is good. Or if you want to build a Windows desktop application, C# is the way to go. And I've had experience in all of these except for the machine learning. I haven't really done machine learning, but I've had experience in all of these in my old company and my current company. And yeah, that's so true. You have to figure out first what your goal is in learning how to program. I think it's hard to program. You don't have a goal. You just want to program. Because I've seen people who they would take a class. They would take a course, like an online course, and then they learn the course, they learn the material, and then they're asking like, okay, so what's next? What do I do now? And some of them are even saying things like, oh, I'm an expert at this programming language. Now what? What's there to do now? And whenever I read those kinds of questions, I'm always thinking, why did you learn in the first place? I think you should have a goal first. Otherwise, you don't really have a purpose for learning how to program. And like I said before in my previous video, programming is a tool. And basically, if you don't have a something in mind to build, then you're learning how to use a tool, but you don't know what the tool is for. So I think it's really important to learn how to program. And I think most people who don't know what they want to build, they just want to learn how to program so they can get a programming job. So that's kind of like their goal, is to get a programming job. But I think even if that's your goal, to just get a programming job, you should figure out which programming job do you want. Figure out what kind of company would you want to work for. Do you want to do web development? Do you want to do some sort of signal processing, DSP stuff? You need to figure those out. And I think if you don't even know which one you just want to program in general, then at that point, I would say just find an internship, and then you can get some experience from an internship. You would get to know what's boring, you get to know what's interesting, and you get to work on some fun projects. So you have some kind of project. And if you still don't know, or if you can't get an internship, you can download my guide, because my guide has a goal for you already. You want to build an app for yourself. And for me, I coded that in C, but you can code it in other languages. And some people say that Python is probably the easiest to code, but I recommend programming in C, and I'll get to that later on in this live, why I would recommend C. Also, okay, so the next point I want to mention is it doesn't actually matter too much. A lot of programming concepts will transfer over unless you're going from a really not really you're using a programming language that's not really used that much, like Haskell. I don't really think Haskell is used that much, but it's popular. Then your skills are not going to transfer over to like C or Java. So I wouldn't recommend you learn Haskell as your first language. I would recommend you use like one of the bigger, more well-known programming languages. I think you should learn a programming language that has a big community of people. So if you ever get stuck, you can ask them for help. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, it doesn't really matter too much, because once you learn C, which is what I did, then you can learn Java, you can do Python, you can do C++, you can do C#. All the things that you're learning in C will just help you. I mean, a lot of the skills that you learn from that, and even in terms of debugging and building, like how to think programmatically, you're going to learn that in your first language. And then your second, third, fourth, fifth language, you're going to pick them up faster and faster and faster, because you already had experience in your first language. So really what matters is you start. The most important thing in programming, or in your programming journey, is to just start with one language, and then you will be able to pick up other languages. And also, as you get more experienced in programming, there comes a point where you're not thinking of a programming language anymore. You're not thinking specifically, I'm gonna code this in C. Like I my background is C. I don't really think right away, oh, I'm gonna code this in C. I usually think, what is the best, like I said yesterday, what is the best programming language for this thing that I'm trying to build? And that's how you start to think once you start programming a lot. Once you start programming as your job, then you're thinking more, what is most appropriate for my use case? And you start thinking which is more efficient to use, which has better tools, which has a better community where I can code this. So it doesn't really matter too much. What matters is that you just start. And also, like I always say, and like I said in the first video, learn as far as you want and as far as you need. So just try to, you should have a goal in mind, something that you want to build, and then just learn as much as you can in order to accomplish that goal, in order to build that tool. You want to learn the programming skills you need to build that tool. I think that's why projects are so important, because you learn as far as you need and as far as you want in terms of how to build that application. And once as you're getting those skills, they become more cemented in your brain because you used it to build something. So that's the way to go. You should have something in mind to build, and then go and build it. And then as you become more experienced, you're going to start to adapt. And then you're going to start to think, oh, there's so many limitations in this language, so I want to build this thing that I want to build, I'm going to try it in this. For example, actually, I was doing some research the other day. I was looking at uh, if you can use C to build a website. So you can actually build websites in C. And I heard that, or what I read was, that's how they used to do it. They used to build these web pages in C, but then JavaScript became more and more popular, became easier to use. So now people just use JavaScript. All right, so that's the second point, is it doesn't really matter too much. What matters is that you start and then you adapt and then you learn the things that you need to learn to build the things that you want to build. Okay, and then my last point is, because I'm biased, I'm going to give you an actual answer. I think you should learn C. And I'll talk about this more in depth tomorrow in my video tomorrow. And basically my video tomorrow is why you should learn C. But just to give you some some ideas is, first, C is legendary. It's like one of the legendary languages that a lot of programmers have grown up in. We all grew up learning C. And it's like, I saw one guy, he mentioned that C is the lingua franca, is that how you pronounce it, of the programming world. And a lot of programming languages are built on C. That doesn't mean that actually Python was built using C, I think. And a lot of like the compiler for Python, or the interpreter for Python, was built in C. And some OSs are built in C. And some languages have drawn inspiration from C. So C is like the grandfather. Well, I guess not really the grandfather. So that's debatable, but it's one of those legend. I think everyone can agree with me. Every programmer can agree with me. C is one of the legendary languages. Like legendary. And also, yeah, I'm only recommending this because this was my experience. Actually, my first programming language was TI-83. I don't know what the actual language is, but that was the first language that I used, because I had a TI-83, and then all my friends had TI-83 pluses, and then I was like, I wanted to play games too, but I didn't have that. I didn't have the same capabilities that they had, because theirs was more advanced. So I couldn't play the same games that they were playing. So I was like, maybe I'll just make my own games. So I started coding in TI-83 when I was in middle school. But C was the first language I learned in university. So that's where that bias comes from. And I think having this background in C was really good in terms of learning other languages. I think if you learn C first, C is a good starting language, helps you be more balanced, or more, it gives you a good starting point, because you start to worry about memory. And I think the other languages, they do all that, they take care of all that stuff for you. And C, you can do a lot of cool things in C that you can't do in other languages. Other languages are not going to allow you to do the things that you're doing in C. And part of it is because they're kind of like giving you training wheels. Like Java, this is how it was described in my university. They said Java is like, they don't want you to screw things up, so they put a lot of checks in there so that you don't screw things up. Like in Java they will have these compile errors, and they'll have these errors that will tell you you're not supposed to do that. But in C, they will allow you to do that. So I think C they allow you to give you more things to do. Like, you can do more things in C, but it's also bad in some sense, because now you're doing some things that are not really good in terms of memory. But I think that's part of the learning experience. If you learn how to code well in C, you're going to learn how to code well in the other languages. And it also gives you a broader understanding of how computers work, because when you code in C, you also have to think about the hardware that you're coding on. And some people say that that's a negative, but I think that it gives you a better background of what you're telling the computer to do. And yeah, I just think it's a good starting point. And also I think some people will say that Python is better because it's easier to learn and it's more simple. And I think if you're looking for simplicity, yeah, Python is better. But C is not that hard to learn anyways. So why don't you just learn C? C is actually already easy to learn. So why don't you just go with why don't you just go with C, with the one that would give you a better background, help you become a more balanced programmer, and it's easy. It's already easy. So just learn C. All right, so that's my talk. First, that's the wrong question. For those of you who are asking this question, which is better? Which programming language should I learn first? Yeah, that's the wrong question. You should first figure out what application you're trying to build first, and then choose the programming language that best suits your use case. Second, it doesn't actually matter too much if you're going to be a programmer, because you're eventually going to use all the programming languages. Actually, I don't use all the programming languages, but you get what I mean. It's easy to just switch to other languages anyways, and you're gonna adapt, and based on what you want to build, you're gonna adapt. And then the third point that I wanted to talk about today is to recommend C. Learn C, because that's a good starting language, and that's my bias, and people will disagree, but that's where I stand. All right, so I'm gonna open it up for questions. I'm happy to open up for questions. So which programming language are you learning right now? And feel free to tell me in the chat, and tell me why. I want to know why you're learning the language that you're learning. Also, which programming language do you think you should learn first, and why? And what have you read online about which language you should learn first? I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. And also, what are you trying to build? What kind of industry are you trying to get into? And what kind of application do you want to get? What kind of job are you trying to get if you're trying to switch careers? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also if you can also leave those in the comments as well, if you don't want to leave them in the chat. And also, I mentioned this in the beginning of the live. Download my programming guide. They will teach you from no coding experience to building your first app. And I think it's a good, like I've been saying, it's good to have a application in mind, and that's when you start to learn. Like I learned in university, I learned by having a goal in mind, having an application that I want to build. And it's something that you can actually use for yourself. You can actually use this to budget your finances. So why not? Why wouldn't you want to build that for yourself? And then you can personalize it. That's why it's called personalized finance app. Okay? So download that. That's in the link in the description. And okay, so thank you for hanging out with me. If you're catching this on the replay, you can leave your questions in the comment section, and I will be sure to read every comment, respond to any questions there, and also get a feel for what kind of content people want, and then I can share my thoughts, my 2 cents on the kinds of questions that people are asking. All right, peace. And join me tomorrow. I'm going to talk about C and why you should learn C. Okay? See ya.